Iaho, Amando, Dayo Ika, Huku Beking La, Genio, Ngaku Betindonga, Iaho. Now I need your help. Ajikalema weni siya hamba. Too fast. Ajikalema weni siya hamba. Ajikalema weni siya hamba. Ajikalema weni siya hamba. I've learned that that's a much better way than saying, shut up you guys! Welcome. Kia ora. It is so awesome to see you all here this evening on a Monday night, no less. I love it. A few drinkies, nibbles, and just beautiful, beautiful faces and humans here to bless us with your presence, to share, receive, and I thank you all on behalf of the team at Tent for being a part of the second year running, everybody. Our Women's Health Week 2025. Now, I recall about a year ago I was moaning and groaning about lumps and bumps and things popping up in places where they're not supposed to, having a bit of a rant on social media, and Cecilia messaged me and she was like, way too much talk on social media about that stuff. How about instead though, you come and join us with Women's Health Week, because did you know that there isn't one? And we'll hear more about that shortly. And in case you're wondering what the chant was earlier, it's just paying homage to my South African whānau to bless this evening, set us onto a good, safe foundation. And as I said, it's also nice to bring a bit of sing-song to light the load and the pressure and to get us all started today. So in light of that cultural relevance, I'd also always like to make sure that we bless ourselves, our land, the people, places, things that we are so lucky to call home. And without any further ado, please can you help me to welcome warmly, like only us ladies can, in Karakia to bless our event, Dr Mataroria, to please come and give us your prayer in Karakia for this evening.
Kia ora koutou katoa, e mihi ana ki te rangi, e mihi ana ki te whenua, e mihi ana ki ngā tangata. Ka tuku mihi atu tēnei kia koutou, nau mai, haere mai, whakatau mai. Whakatau mai mō tēnei kaupapa nui, mō te wiki haora wāhine, Women's Health Week. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Mataroria tōku ingoa, mō Ngāti Hine, Ngāti Whātua, Ngāti Wai, e Waikatua Hau. And on behalf of 10 co-founders, firstly a very warm welcome. And I'd also like to start our hui this evening with a karakia to get underway. And it says, kia hora te marino, kia whakapapapaunamu te moana, he huarahi mā tātou e te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa, haumi e, hui e, tātou, kia ora tātou, ngā mihi nui.
Yep. The glasses go on. It is my first cue that I'm in the right place. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and I say gentlemen, thank you to the gents in our lives for being here as well, because I think it's really important that we don't just share these stories and experiences with each other and ourselves. That's wonderful, but how great when we get to share with those that can further support and maybe understand us just that little bit better as we go through the challenges, the successes, the achievements, and really get to know who we are inside and out. So tonight we'll hear from inspiring keynote speakers. We'll get the big 3 insights from our expert panel, and then we're going to dive into your questions. We want this to be raw, real, honest, but please don't be like me and make the personal questions related to your own health. Keep it general. Our lovely ladies are not here to give you that personalised medical advice tonight. That's for another day. Although I think you've all already breached that, if I'm right. So that's also your disclaimer. Ask questions. Let's chat to each other. But tonight is not about getting those diagnoses. We can actually do that at a whole other hui. Now let's get to our professional, our mentors, our supporters. let's welcome our incredible keynote speakers. They're going to set the tone for tonight's conversations. And how better but to start with Cecilia Robinson. And as I say these names, I want you to cheer out loud. First up, we have Cecilia Robinson from Tent Health, everyone. Denise Cosgrove from the Selwyn Foundation. And you've seen her tonight, you've had photographs, you've asked her about how she won those medals. How lucky are we? The legendary Dame Valerie Adams. Now these three remarkable wāhine, and I don't say that lightly, I mean it. They will share their unique stories on women's health. I know you did it once before, we're going to ask them to please join us up on stage. How are you ladies feeling?
Good.
That's not part of the script, that's just a quick little chit chat. How are we feeling, Cecilia?
Yeah,
Good. You were juggling a few things today, as always.
That was a bit of a juggle. Is this one on? I'm so loud in my
If you go to the bottom, there's a little on button. Sometimes I also do sound checks, so that's fine. I'm also a technician, and boom, check, check.
Someone saying, I don't know how this works.
Lovely.
Someone does.
Can we give it up for our sound guy tonight, everybody? He didn't even know that he was coming to do that today, but thank you so much. What's your name, gentlemen? Raymond? Just a little bit of reverb, a little bit of bass for me. No, I'm joking. Thank you so much for being here. So busy day, busy time, always, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's been go, go, go.
It's been go, go, go. And Denise, so lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
You are giving us incredible support, promotional activity, the love. Thank you so much. Dame Valerie Adams.
Woo!
Yes!
Hot stuff! Yes!
I turn on my social media, I see Instagram, and I tell you, you don't have to ask Val twice to share in what she truly believes in. So how lucky are we to have you here?
Yeah, amazing.
So Cecilia, we're going to take it straight to you, and you know firsthand the challenges that women face in prioritising their health while juggling all the things that we've talked about earlier. You're an entrepreneur. It says a serial entrepreneur, so I feel like she needs to have doctor on her title as well. Co-CEO at Tent Health. Share with us the story behind Women's Health Week and highlight the recent research on the hidden tax of being a woman. Take it away, and I'll take a breather.
Absolutely. So first of all, something I know that we're going to do something amazing. And she came to me and she said, did you know there's no Women's Health Week? And I don't normally call Sarah out on being wrong on anything because she's not. And I can tell you that her husband would agree with that. But I said kind of, are you sure? Surely if there's Men's Health Week, there will be Women's Health Week as well. And she said, no, categorically there is no Women's Health Week. And that's how Women's Health Week began 18 months ago. And we launched our first Women's Health Week a year ago. So big thank you to you, Sarah. As a mother of raising 3 kids, I've got a small army of them ranging from 4 years old, which is wild, it was like lockdown baby, to a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. Healthcare is really important to me personally, but not just for me, but obviously for my children, for our tamariki. And so this is really for them. This is how we help New Zealanders be the healthiest people in the world and how we build the best health system in the world. I genuinely think that we can. Which is super exciting. We're only 5 million people. We live on an island. We were super compliant during COVID. Actually, when you look at GDP, we actually spend pretty well on healthcare. So I feel really enthusiastic that we can build the best healthcare system in the world. And in the setting of that, our team has done some amazing research on what it's currently like to be a woman in healthcare and how you're accessing healthcare services. And I actually I went on Ryan Bridge show this morning, and I walked into the studio, and I literally see Ryan hanging over the door to his producer's room going, pretty sure this survey is bullshit. And his producer, who was female, said it is absolutely not. And then she started talking about all of these women's health issues that she had, including him then saying loudly, no, I don't want to see your bra. And so I'm not quite sure where the conversation went, but it was loud, clear support from his producer. And so what have we found in this survey? There's a 15,000 plus lifetime penalty of being a woman. It's a really real expense to being a woman. And I think in particular it's hard to understand, you know, if you're not a woman, what the actual cost looks like. There's $600 a year in hidden costs, you know, from pain relief to period care products to childcare to enable you to access appointments, right? These things are all real that is making it hard for us to access care. Cost is also keeping away from women from accessing healthcare. So up to 70% have either delayed or avoided seeing healthcare because of the cost involved. And obviously there's a massive big workplace toll there as well. 77% missed work or study due to women's health issues. So, you know, this is a very real expense that women are facing, and we need to be able to bridge the gap on that. When you think about inequities, almost 70% of Māori women and 66% of Pacific women made financial sacrifices for healthcare. And so, like, that's a really, really massive, big inequity. And in addition to that, we all know that there's a motherhood tax. You know, 24% of mothers have lost income from unpaid care leave. So there is a significant amount of cost of being a woman, and this is really highlighting that. And the things that we can do to actually make this better for women. We need to talk about it. You know, there are things that we should be looking at as a country, like introducing free period products in public places like schools, universities, and businesses, and normalising talking about healthcare needs for women, things like you know, having time off work if you've got period pains or endometriosis, which I have myself. So all of these things add up. So that's kind of a little bit of a debrief of what's happening and a start to tonight's kōrero.
Thank you. I got it.
Oh yeah, that actually sounds quite good, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. I remember us chatting last year, and I have to share. No, you sound great. I have to share. You talk about free period products or people just knowing and being aware of it. I was in a store about a year ago, and I swear I had my most embarrassing moment ever. I was emceeing a gig later that evening. I was going in to have my hair and makeup done. I stood up and thought, oh, something feels a bit yucky down there. And honestly, it just went zhunk on the ground. And I just remember grabbing tissues and going on an embarrassing moment. And I asked if I could use the bathroom. And the answer was, it's for staff only. And I just sat there in my embarrassment going, I'm sure that's true, but right now, girlfriend, I just need you to give me a hand because I can't deal.
Yeah.
The young lady popped away and came back and said, oh look, this time we will. And I tell you, that sick feeling I had in my gut, I didn't go and say who it was and what was happening, but in that moment I just thought, who else has something like this happen to? One, I'm having to explain my embarrassment, didn't need explanation, but even to have to ask to use something as not even normal, a necessity, an essential.
It's a basic right.
It's a basic human right. And in that moment I thought, I will share my embarrassing story, not to put shame on that young woman or the business place, but actually just to make it known that it's not right. Please make things more accessible, be more real about the fact that sometimes that happens and it wasn't for lack of not being organised.
Yeah.
It just happened. So just to give a little bit of an experience that I think you and the team sharing constantly, how actually I wouldn't want my daughters to go through that or anyone else's actually. Thank you so much for making even the uncomfortable and the embarrassing normal for us to talk about.
Thank you for sharing that. It was this morning Ryan Rich said to me in the conversation that we had, he said he finally changed his mind on the fact that you should be able to access period products when he realised it was as essential as toilet paper. It kind of made me shocked that you get to that point where that's a light bulb moment for someone, whereas for us it's just a basic right, that is something that you need, right? And so, yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing that story.
You are welcome. And the cost and the inequities, I was trying to write down percentages and numbers here, and I was going to write over my next speaker notes, but just, again, the struggle is real, and the more we can talk about it, the more we bridge that gap. Denise, thank you so very much. When I was introduced to you earlier today, they said, please, we have to make sure that this woman knows just how grateful we are for the support. with New Zealand's leading aged care organisation, the Selwyn Foundation, everyone. Passionately advocating for older women's health. Let's give that a hand. I love the title, Positive Aging, understanding women's health journeys, and that it doesn't just end at menopause. There's so much more to come, and the more we know about it, the better. So I want to ask you why. Why is it that the Selwyn Foundation wanted to get involved? What are the wider issues impacting older women's well-being? And again, thank you so very much for being with us.
Nā wāhine toa, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. So thank you everybody. As Megan said, I'm Denise Cosgrove, I'm the Chief Executive of the Selwyn Foundation. And who are we? We're an organisation that is focused about oranga mātua, oranga tangata, respectful ageing for all within thriving communities. We're particularly focused on people who experience multiple disadvantage. And one of the groups that we're really worried about is single older women. So for whatever reason, life shocks or other reasons, women sometimes end up with nothing as they're aging. So our goal is to actually enable people to age, to live and to die with dignity and respect. What the other thing that we're really focused on is actually the issue around healthy lifespans and health. So it's a remarkable achievement that in a century we have increased the lifespan of everybody by 30 years. However, women spend 15 of those years in poor health. So not only do we have the issues that Cecilia has identified through the survey about the cost to women through their lifetime, actually we're ending up living longer but not well. So what can we all do to actually enable each other to thrive and to enhance the well-being of women in our communities? So I use the story, and I realise there are different stories here tonight, but my own mother just passed away at 92. She lived very simply. She brought up 7 children. She had 6 of us under the age of 7. She did an incredible job, but she always prioritised her own health. She had, grew her own vegetables, cooked her own food, was still at 92, making preserves and things like that. And she walked around the block with her walker. And then in the last 6 months of her life, she spent it in a hospital level care. What an amazing achievement to get all that way through, live what we'd all want to do in our community with our whānau and friends. So a bit of a role model for me. She was always very, very healthy, but also an amazing wāhine toa to look up to and respect. But it was about prioritising her own health. It was about not just health, but well-being, so social connectedness. We know one of the biggest things for women is loneliness and social isolation. And there's a whole bunch of research that says, you're more likely, terrible, to have an early death if you're lonely and isolated. So my key messages tonight are not the negative things, they're actually about let's work really hard to extend the period of our lives when we live it with quality, and it is all about prioritising your health, even though you might often prioritise that of your children and family. The other key thing, as we always say, is that let's also thrive to 105 and remember that there's an awful lot of time between 65, when apparently we're all old and all the same, to 105. So that's my key message. The reason we're supporting well, not only because she's a very compelling person, Cecilia, but also because we can see the benefit of good health to longevity.
A couple of notes here. What was Mama's name?
Grace.
Grace. Beautiful. And did I hear right? 6 under 7?
Oh yeah.
Woo! Go girl! Thrive to 105. That's the first time I heard that. And there was a bit of murmur in the audience. We can do it, ladies. Thank you so much, Denise. Our world champion athlete, mother of two, has competed at the highest level well into her 30s. Ooh, go girl, understands firsthand the unique health challenges women face. From balancing motherhood with career demands, to navigating the physical and emotional pressures of being a woman in sport and doing it like nobody else does. Dame Valerie, you're going to share with us a deep personal kōrero on how important it is to prioritise health. We are in awe of you. You're amazing. You're doing so many things that we aspire to all the time, and yet, time and time again, you make time for those of us you haven't met before, sharing, caring, and making sure that that wāhine toa lives on. So, kia ora, girlfriend. Thank you for being here.
Malolelei, ko whiwhiwha mare, ko mau ke ka whatamu motore pōni. Really happy to be with you guys, happy and so grateful for the opportunity to be a part of the 10 team as, alongside Sam Wallace. Women's health is it's quite a personal thing for me. My mum passed away when she was 39 years old. And when you talk about your story, Megan, we grew up with that and kind of experiencing my mum going through that for months on end. And because she was Polynesian, because she was from South Auckland, because she's under the community service card through WINS and stuff, healthcare was not prioritised. She prioritised all of our health, and whatever money we had from our benefit basically went on family, went on food on the table. And we saw her suffer a lot. We saw her suffer a whole lot. To the point where she looked paled, but somehow she just kept going, and it was one of those things you survived on rags, you survived on this, that and the other because nothing else couldn't work, right? So we didn't really know at the time. All we knew as kids was that we had to clean up, we had to be there for mum. We were at school one day and we got called up to come back home urgently. And my sister and I ran home and she got rushed to the hospital and found out that she had to have a hysterectomy because it was the only way to stop the bleeding. So we thought, okay, it's 3 days. So she ended up in hospital, Miraboa, had her surgery. And we thought, okay, cool, like, we're all good. So we went back home, and 6 months later, she had to go back for a revisit to see what was going on. And we didn't know at the time, but the second time round, there was they actually found cancer within that area, and when we went back, it had spread. And at this time, the appointment was made at National Women's Hospital. So from that appointment room, we went up to the wards. From those wards, we were there for 3 weeks. I was her carer. We went to the hospice. And at the age of 15, I didn't know what a hospice was. All I knew is that we were treated like second-class citizens. She was a big woman. She didn't want anybody else to come and help her. And that was only because of the looks and the squirms and the reactions we got when people walked into our room. I was a big girl at the age of 15, this height, and I looked really strong and all the rest of it, but I was young. I was a baby. But I had to grow up really, really quickly. So for the whole time we're in the hospital, I'm sleeping on the ground on tiled floors because they couldn't give me anything else to sleep on, but I had to be there because she didn't want anybody else to be there. And I looked after her, and then after a while they said, oh, we're going to move us to the hospice, and I didn't know why, but I just thought, oh, okay, we're probably overstayed our mark, and they're moving us to this other place. We hopped into the ambulance and they shipped us out across to the hospice, South Auckland Hospice out in Tōtara. Beautiful place, absolutely gorgeous. And for the very first time, I felt like someone heard me, or I felt like someone cared for me, as well as caring for my mum, beautifully. All of a sudden, I felt like they looked after me as well. Knowing for a while that I was only 15, knowing for a while that I was there taking care of my mum. And I didn't go to school or anything like that, I was a full-time carer. And they normally say like 2 weeks is pretty much the limit, and then where I was just very oblivious to it, and no shit, 2 weeks to the day. Things happen, but on the 15th of September, and I'd already done track and field at this stage, only a few months and all the rest of it, but 15th of September I was watching the opening ceremony of the Sydney Olympic Games next to her bed, and it was the first night she'd had a really, really good rest. and they've probably given her some meds and some morphine, all the rest of it. She'd been in pain the whole time we were there. So I sat there watching these Olympics, the opening ceremony, New Zealand team coming out, and I was thinking, oh yeah, you know, one day I'm going to be there. This is cool, but you know, dreaming in my own little head. You know, because look around me, I've got a sick mum over here, I'm from South Auckland, nobody gives a shit about us, not even the system, and that was the reality, right? So that all happened, and I had this little, you know, flicker of hope in my brain without actually knowing what was going to happen the very next morning. At 9 a.m. the very next morning, or just before 9, my little sister was in the room as well, and she kind of called her over, my mum did. And very set up in a way, culturally, this is kind of what they do. So she called Anna over, gave her a kiss, looked at her, and then just told her to go and sit down over there, then called me over. And she sat herself up and looked out the window, called me over to come and sit next to her, so I sat next to her. And then she looked at me, and then looked outside, and then she just put her head on my shoulder. And it's in Tongan we say you're looking at the whanua, looking back into the earth where you came onto, right? So she looked outside, and I just hugged her cradled her like a baby. And she took her final breaths, and then as she did that, her slowly just got heavier on me. And my mum was a very, very big lady, but I held her up somehow. And then she passed 9 a.m. September the 16th. So I was hurt, like heartbroken, and you know, really, really sad, but at the same time really relieved for her, because I'd seen her go through so much pain. And laid her down and kind of went through the process of doing that. Now my life could have gone either way at that very moment. It could have gone this way of the status quo, go on a dole, have some kids, live off the government, and this was it. Or utilise the God-given talents, the genetics I had, and take inspiration from this very experience to do something with it. And I promised her then that I was going to go to Olympics, and I promised her then that I was going to make her proud. Did I know what was going to happen to my life in the next few weeks, few months? Not at all, no idea. She was married at the time. I had a stepfather. My stepfather kicked me out of the house. So all of a sudden I didn't have anyone. I was sleeping at the Onehunga bus station. I didn't have anyone. And it was a really tough experience, but when you are thrown in those situations, like you really have to like suck it up and try and find something better or try and find a different path. And I wanted to do that not only for her but also myself. I had this dying wish or this dying goal of breaking the cycle. I don't want my kids to be state house kids. There's nothing wrong with it, you know, because the struggle is real, but I wanted to do something better, so I took this route of being an athlete. And went on that journey, and obviously 4 years later I made it to the Olympics, and it was great and all the rest of it. But it wasn't until I, you know, was training and you know, periods came, all the rest of it, I didn't realise I'd suffered greatly as an athlete. Well, I did, but you know, women's health or your health, personal health, goes aside when you're an elite athlete. Because you are training to perform, you're training to win medals. Nobody gives a damn about what's happening to your menstrual cycle. I took the pill for such a long time to stop my cycle, because that's just what you do, because we have to compete, right? And it wasn't until it came the time to have children that I found out a bit more about what was going on. But it used to be a bit of a tug and war with my GP trying to get a smear test, but I knew I had to more regularly because of my mum's illness. But I hated it, and my GP's here, by the way. And
yeah,
she'll
be
like,
she's like,
It'll be interesting though, because like it's one of those things that's quite invasive, like oh shame, you know, whakaman, all this hoo-ha. But I grew up seeing that from my own mother and not prioritising her health. So I was just like, oh nah. So I'm like, I'm all good. I've got to go to the Olympics. That's what the priority is. So she used to trick me when I'm going into something else. She'd be like, you're due for a smear test, you know. And I'm like, oh, I'll go next time. She goes, no, we'll do it now. And I'm, oh, damn it. You know, so, you know, we got through it. She made me feel comfortable with the rest of it. You know, this is part and parcel of what you've got to do. But that's just what needed to happen because of the history. Now, when it came time to have a child, all of a sudden I realised that I couldn't have a child naturally, and it was because of me. I had really bad endometriosis. I had to go have kids through IVF again, and something else that's not acceptable within my community. And therefore, these topics or these subjects that I talk about, that I experience, I'm very open about it, because knowledge is power. And if you can get help earlier, you can prevent it or get help for you. It doesn't, you know, the fact that I can't have kids naturally doesn't mean I can't have kids. There are other means and ways to do it, right? So it's just a matter of educating, in particular, my people to understand there is help out there. Go and get yourself checked out. You know, even athletes now, we prioritise, you know, going to the Olympics. We don't prioritise having children, and that's why athletes now, I say to them, go get your bloods done, see what your levels are doing, because I found out through this process that I am going to menopause early. I turned 41 this year, and just a very light conversation with my GP earlier, she was like, this might be the first steps to getting menopause, you know. But she's not wrong. Because I did have an indication whilst I was going through IVF that I am going to menopause quite possibly by the time I'm 43. I'm 41 now, right? So then the window of opportunity of having kids went from something I thought was this big to this big. Now I'm grateful that I've got children. I love the fact that I'm able to be a mum, because that's all I've wanted to be, but it's my duty now to pour into myself. It's my duty now to look after myself, so then I can make it past, obviously I've made it past my mum now, but it still scares me to think that at the age of 39 she died, but I was 15, right? And for me going from 39 to 40 was very difficult, but we made it. So I love this journey being with 10. I love this journey. I'm out there, you know, doing my own thing on my socials because I want our people in particular to go get themselves tested. You know, now getting a smear test isn't as invasive as what it used to be, you know, because things are preventable if we just go out there and get help. So obviously, as you can see, I'm very passionate about this subject. I'm getting my fufu tingles from time to time.
Somebody did warn me that there were going to be some things that Dame Val might say that will get her some dollars thrown in a swear jar. A couple of things I want to say sorry and thank you. Sorry that you had to go through that really challenging ordeal, having to feel less than and undermined at a time where you should have been supported, uplifted and nurtured. And at the same time, thank you for using that experience to, again, not just educate and share, but to flip the script. To flip the script, and instead of whatever excuses we can make for why people do the things they do, you firsthand, head on, you go in there, challenge strongly, and you become the voice and the representative of so many that can't. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Miss.
And the Tongan culture, they say, Tafi hoku loto, Tafi hoku loto, Lau mari e tafi hoku loto, O amalolo, Io o alo o fa, Lau mari e tafi hoku loto. It means sweep over my soul, sweet spirit, sweep over my soul. And then a word I heard you say, and I reckon we could use this next year. You know, obviously we're going to do this year after year after year. You spoke of whakama. Whakama means shame, embarrassment, feeling less than. And people can put whakama feelings and experiences on you. And what I like is that you, like I said, Val, you took that whakama and you turned it into something positive. So if there's something that we can share to cultures, religion, youth, young ones who get a bit whakama about stuff, a bit shame, a bit shy, let's bring a positive spin to whakama and ask them to drop kick that whakama, and let's talk about the things that are a little bit challenging, just like our Dame Val has today. Thank you for that deep sharing. Woo, I'm feeling a bit hot in here. You three ladies are amazing. I'm going to ask you to be upstanding. I'm also going to ask the audience to be upstanding, wiggle the legs, and can we please give a massive tautoko round of applause for our three keynote speakers. Thank you so much. New Zealand, we are blessed. We are blessed with incredible. I am. Let me keep this is leading somewhere. We have some amazing humans, amazing, talented, deeply rooted wāhine. How lucky are we? And there's more to come. I look at our young ones, I look at what's being portrayed out there in schools, on the sports fields and politics. We've laid some foundations, and I know there's some more special young women to come. And on that note, this is also part of getting to know each other, sharing and caring. So to get me and time to go get a tissue, because the snotties and the tears were rolling, I'm going to ask you to turn around to the back, to the side, find one person you haven't met that you don't know, say hello. We've got a minute to do so while we set up for the next section. Go on.
Hi, how are you? Oh, sorry. Honestly, I was like...
Oh my god, I was just like...
no. So I take it, swallow.
I just realised my face was like in the camera the whole time. I'm glad that the only thing is Facebook. So I'm like,
each other but have
we've emailed. But it's nice to see you in person. You made it!
Yeah, I wasn't sure it was okay, because like, everyone had a baby, like,
How many babies did you deliver today?
not today, but over the weekend I had like 8 hours of sleep. So we're like, this is Wednesday, so I'm like, I'm pretty fucked.
And just like speed dating, you have 30 seconds left, everybody. Get that number, get that address.
What was the question?
I don't know. Just get that number, get that question. I don't know.
And when you're ready, everybody, please feel free to take your seat. Fantastic, thank you so much. The chatter, the murmur is real. This is also not part of the script, but I already warned you early on, we're going to change things up a little bit. Back row to my right. Hands up please, back row. Thank you, nominate one person. Petra, lovely, of course. Somebody you met today, or a little bit of sharing at the back there?
I met the person in charge of primary care at Tech. Primary carers, or the primary care delivery. It definitely had a good name like that, and it had primary and it had care. There are 7 non-integrated involved in TED, and then there are 12 or 13.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So thousands of doctors.
Oh, goodness. Yes. Fantastic. When you dress like this, you know you are going to be pulled out to speak, and I know you're now checking your pads and your boots. Yes, beautiful young lady with the beret and the red scarf. Please be upstanding. I can do it with you. Ara?
Hello.
Hi. Who are you representing today?
Just myself, I'm just coming as a midwife.
And this is what we're... How many years in midwifery?
A decade. Coming up soon, yeah.
Can we please give it up for our young and beautiful midwife? Love it. Oh, love it. And then because, you know, you're now leaning over, and I know that was your cue, trying to take me to say something. Belinda, be upstanding, share with us.
Kia ora. I met Maria from Mexico. Maria from Mexico. And what I loved, she said that women's health is actually prioritised in Mexico. And she was quite shocked. when she came here. What's the opposite of prioritise? That's where we are. And then just gave her a little bit about my health story. So yeah, it was awesome.
Belinda is a strong woman that is going through those health challenges today. She had long hair about a year ago, and then no hair a couple of months ago, and look at those curly whirlies now. And what I love is they've got a bit of an event this weekend, and she was this week, and she said, oh my gosh, I'm now totally on Thursday, I'm tapping in, we're going to have a Women's Health Week segment as well. So girlfriend, thank you for being here, and just like that, we extend the love and the support. Thank you so much. Now, this section is called the Big Three. Are you ready, ladies? Oh, when I say the ladies, I'm talking to our doctors. Right. I'm going to ask them to come one by one, and then we'll do a bit of an individual share. Dr. Eileen, everybody. Dr. Eileen. I tell you, this woman, she makes some moves and some noise in Southeast Auckland and the Pakuranga Rugby Club, just saying. Dr. Eileen is passionate about women's health, preventative care, and breaking down barriers to healthcare access. When Dame Val was talking about the challenges of knowing certain things and then not doing certain things, and there's that woman that's going, you better do it. Yeah, it's her GP to my right here. Really wonderful to have you here, Dr. Sables. You've just come back from the UK.
I have, and you know what? I can't even operate this.
Well, I didn't know how
It's all right.
Chick chick.
Oh, yeah.
Already on.
And that's why we love you. You just keep it real.
Absolutely.
How was your time in the UK?
It was good. It was good. I was going back and visiting relatives, which, as you may know, is not really a holiday. But it was nice to have some time away and to catch up with all the family. My parents are now in their 90s. 93 and 94, and the next time my mother eats a green vegetable will be the first time. So I don't know how that happened, but it did. And she's quite well. They were both dance teachers, so they have really looked after their health apart from not eating green vegetables. Yeah.
They're doing other good stuff.
They are. Yeah.
Wonderful to have you
like
here
the
with us. And next up we have Dr. Amelia Ryan, an obstetrician and gynecologist in Auckland, who is going to talk to us about reproductive health. Are you ready for this?
Yes,
Are you sure?
I definitely am.
I love it. It's so good to have you here. Before I do an MC gig, I usually get my notes, and in this case, when it's healthcare, you can imagine I'm like, right, where are the big words? So if I say obgyn, is that right?
It's totally fine.
Oh, wonderful, thank you. It is English is my second language, so you guys can forgive me a little bit, thank you. Then we have Dr. Megan Ogilvie, an endocrinologist from RH Associates, an expert in hormone health, menopause management, and metabolic conditions affecting women. Are these doctors amazing, incredible, or what? I think I should have come to you about 5 years ago, because much like Val, I was like, man, the air conditioning's broken. No, it's the heater. I love my family. No, I hate you. And all these weird things that were never talked about.
There is no need to suffer.
I did. And about 2 years ago, my girlfriend said to me, there's these things you can do and pop on you. So I know we said we're not going to talk about personal things, but much like that speed dating, I am going to grab a number today. Trust you me. Thank you for what you do within our healthcare. And finally, she said, keep it short. We've got doctors here, and I don't know if I'm even worthy. She is more than worthy. A registered dietitian from my food bag, an expert on women's nutritional needs across all life stages. We love her, we need her. Give it up for Lily Henderson.
I'm going to keep it long.
There you go. Oh, ladies, thank you so very much for joining us. And they said you've got to get straight into this. You've been prepped. You're talking to us about the big three. And we're going from a GP's perspective first. Dr. Eileen Sables, what are your big three?
I have my crib notes here.
Ooh, you go, girl.
No, I am a bit of a nerd, and screening gets me very excited. Because when you are screening somebody, you're either looking for something at a very early stage of disease, or you're looking to something that might not even have developed yet. So the first thing we're going to talk about is breast screening, because breast cancer is one of the commonest cancers that women suffer in New Zealand. And we have a wonderful screening program which allows us to look for that at a very early stage. I happen to have my booby beads here. Now you probably can't see them very closely, but this one down the bottom end is 22 millimeters across, and that is the average size of a self-detected breast lump. So people who are examining their own breasts, that's the size that mostly it is. These two here, we have 14 millimeters, and that's the average size of a mammography-detected breast cancer. But this teeny little one, which I bet you can't see at the top, is 2 millimeters across, and that can actually be seen on a mammogram. And that, ladies, is why you need to go and have your mammograms, because you can self-detect lumps, but a mammogram can see things that we cannot feel. About 70% of cancers actually occur over the age of 50. And you say, well, what happens if I'm not in that screening 45 to 69-year-old? You can certainly self-examine your breasts below 40, bearing in mind that only 6% of cancers occur below the age of 40. Look, first of all, do you have any changes in the skin? Do you have any changes in the nipples before you go feeling? And don't squeeze, because you will squeeze round the glandular tissue and you'll feel lumps flat of the hand, and it'll jump out and you'll feel it. It'll feel different to the rest of the breast tissue. So that's why I'm a nerd about breast screening. Secondly, cervical screening, even more excited about this, because this is the area in which we get to detect the HPV virus, which we know now is the thing that changes the cells in your cervix and can be a precursor to cervical cancer. So we actually get to find the thing that is the trigger before the cancer actually develops. And even better than that, just as Val mentioned, I don't have to rugby tackle her to get her on the bed anymore. I give her a cotton bud type swab and then send her off to the toilet, and she actually does it herself. Put it into the vagina and twizzle it around for 20 seconds, back in the little container, and Bob's your uncle, or maybe Roberta's your auntie. So that's why I'm excited about that. Now, also, don't forget that we can even prevent the acquisition of the HPV virus by giving our children the vaccine. And since that vaccine was introduced in 2008, we have 2/3 less cervical cancer in New Zealand, and 1/3 less changes in the cervix when we actually do smears. So that's a massive, massive improvement. Also, the guys don't get left out here, less penile cancer as well. Yes, the old fella can also get the rot as well. And if you have the HPV virus, that's what's causing it. So now in New Zealand, the boys also get offered this vaccine as well, between 19 up to their 27th birthday. So if you've got boys, they can be vaccinated too. The last thing we're going to talk about is heavy periods. About 1/3 of women in New Zealand suffer from heavy periods. Everybody knows what a heavy period feels like because most people have had at least one in their lives. Miserable. 60 to 70 mils is about the amount of blood which is normal. If you have any more than that being shed from the lining of your womb, it can't get out that little hole in the cervix fast enough and it clots. So if you have clots in a period, that means that the bleeding is too heavy. Now obviously there are many, many causes of this, and I'm sure that one of our learned friends here is going to talk about that. I'm picking it's going to be Megan. And it depends on your age what's likely going wrong. There are some very young girls who have heavy periods right from the beginning, and then we move through into the middle, and The 20 to 40-year-olds who may have fibroids might have adenomyosis, which is when the endometrium gets into the wall of your uterus and causes mayhem. And we mustn't, of course, forget the wonderful perimenopause as well. And that's when most people will get heavy periods. And we can actually intervene at every single stage. But unless you come and see your GP or your practice nurse, we don't know about it. So please don't sit there and be miserable. Do something about it.
When Dr. Sables talks, I'm like, writing. Honestly, I wish that healthcare is explained in such a real and quirky and fun way. Because I now know that
if you go to your GP, it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
I need to go to my GP a little bit more. But I learned a thing or two today that I didn't know about before. 2008, the vaccine, and 22 millimeters. But 2 millimeters, even teeny weeny, go for your mammograms. And too many of us are suffering from heavy periods, but the more we know about it, the more we can prepare for things. Dr. Eileen Sables, you're amazing. Thank you so very much. And I love it when you go, oh, I think Megan's going to talk about this, and I don't know if we segue there straight away now. We will. We're talking about hormone health insights. We've learned a little bit about menopause. There's an acronym here, PMDD, which you may share with me a little bit more. Can we please give it up for Dr. Megan Ogilvie, endocrinology.
Thank you Megan, thank you Tend for putting this on. My 3 important points. The first one, know your menstrual cycle. Have an app on your phone that keeps track of your periods. It helps you understand when they become irregular, and it helps you have a look at what your menstrual cycle is like and what it means to you. In 2019, the World Health Organization recognized PMDD, or premenstrual dysphoric disorder, as a real health condition. And this is that big spectrum of PMS through to PMDD, which is often misdiagnosed. We see it misdiagnosed all the time: anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, or also high alcohol intake, because women are just wanting those symptoms to go away. If you notice you're getting cyclical symptoms, they're going away when you get a period, you don't need to suffer from that either. Go and have a talk to your GP or your doctor and see what we can do, because we can generally help. Second thing I wanted to bring up is something called the genitourinary syndrome of menopause, which is a great big huge long name, but I really wanted to highlight this because it is absolutely under-screened for, it's underdiagnosed, and it's undertreated. Those tissues are so estrogen sensitive. Women start to come forward talking about vaginal dryness, vaginal irritation, superficial discomfort with sex, but also urinary symptoms, urgency, frequency, needing to get up at night to pee. This is the one menopausal symptom that gets worse rather than better with time. This is what puts women into rest homes in their 80s because they lose their continence. It is much easier to hold on to tissue than try to grow it back. It is so easily treated. So gather up your courage and go and talk to your GP about it. Finally, third thing, know your bones. So the New Zealand Osteoporosis Society recommends that all women by the age of 65 should have had 1 bone density. It's a great time to try to risk stratify women into those that we should be following and those that are actually doing really well from a bone density point of view. If you fracture your hip over the age of 70, 30% of those women will die in the 12 months after that hip fracture. And midlife is the time to start to protect those bones. So screen for it and know where you sit on that and know what you can do.
The Big Three is teaching us all something tonight. Who's already learning something that they haven't known before? Definitely. The stats around post-hip fracture. Scary. Gosh. And I've learned another new, 2 new words now. Lots of new words, but this dysphoric disorder. PM PN, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Again, when it's put into terms where we can understand, we can absorb it quickly. Please encourage your friends and family. We love a bit of a dinner evening. We like a vino here and there. Talk about these things. I love how they rattle out these words. I mean, Dr. Eileen, she says the word vagina in every other sentence, and it's okay. So thank you so much for making it real, for making it normal, and for teaching us a thing or two tonight. Am I right? Yes. Kia ora to that. Dr. Amelia Ryan. Obgyn, you're going to talk to us about is it gin? Gyne. See, when you get it wrong, you usually learn and remember it even more. I promise you. Obgyn, talk to us about your big three.
Thank you. I honestly found it very difficult to choose just three. But and I may use the word vagina. It's part of my daily vocabulary, so be prepared. I am an endometriosis specialist, so it would be very difficult for me to talk tonight without mentioning pelvic pain. And the take-home message that I wanted to get across was that pelvic pain, period pain, is normal, but know what's normal and what is abnormal, because that's the only way to know what's going on. About 96% of all women or people who menstruate will experience some element of pain with their period. And there's really good understanding of why that is. So the hormones that are released at the onset of your period are actually the same hormones that are released when someone goes into labour. And those hormones will create contraction within the uterus, which will cause the lining of the womb to separate off, and then with that bleeding, it will squeeze the blood in the lining out through the cervix into the vagina, and that is essentially what your period is. So just like labour, those uterine contractions are like doing 100 press-ups, your shoulders will get sore, that uterus is cramping away like a blender in your pelvis for a few days, it's going to be crampy and achy and sore as well. So period pain can be normal, but when it's not normal, it can reflect underlying issues, which include, in my area of work, endometriosis and adenomyosis, which is like its evil, twisted cousin. The ways to know that your pain is not normal are to look for other things. So pain usually starts often the day before your period and into the first day or two. Pain that is lasting for a week before or lasting well through your period and beyond is not normal. Pain, generally speaking, is reasonably well treated with simple pain relief like paracetamol and ibuprofen. And if you're taking those medications and you still can't go to work, you can't exercise, you don't want to go out for dinner with your friends, you don't feel like doing the normal things that you want to do, that's probably leaning into abnormal as well. And other symptoms that can be associated with the pain, which are also kind of red flags for something wrong, is pain with doing the bowel movement, pain with emptying your bladder, pain with having sex, or heavy periods, which Eileen has already mentioned. So know what's normal so that you can then identify what's abnormal and see your GP to look for other underlying causes, which include endo and adeno. So that's number one. I could talk about that forever, but I will not.
I am absolutely loving this. You speak your truth and your passion, girl.
I'll move on. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was fertility, and that there is actually only one day in a monthly menstrual cycle that you can actually get pregnant. So when I was trying to get pregnant with my first baby, it came as quite a shock to me as a gynecologist, obstetrician and fertility specialist that it didn't happen the first time. So that was a real surprise, and especially for someone who had personally been on contraception for a decade and hadn't really got any awareness of my reproductive cycle. I did a lot of deep Googling, let's face it, and learning about what was going on with myself. So the reality is that we teach teenagers about contraception very well, and I think that's really important, but Through all those years, I was deeply petrified about getting pregnant when I didn't want to be. But then I actually didn't really know how to get pregnant when I wanted to. And the reality is an egg is released each month if you have a monthly cycle, and that egg will only last for 24 hours. So sperm will last in the genital tract for about 5 days. It's more important to have sex before you ovulate, so that you don't miss the opportunity for those sperm to reach the egg. And I usually try and get people to imagine the egg being released from the ovary and falling into a pool of sperm. Isn't that wonderful? So once you understand that, I think the most important thing when people come to me and say, I want to get pregnant, how do I do it, is understanding your ovulation. I'm sure you agree with that as well, Megan. So that can be determined through some just really functional kind of physical symptoms, which include breast tenderness, vaginal discharge changes, sometimes some spots in the skin, a little bit of light cramping in the pelvis. There are other kind of high-tech, not high-tech, but tech features which can help, including menstrual tracking apps, which Megan's mentioned. You can use an ovulation monitoring kit, which is done through a urine testing thing over the counter. And there's things called aura rings, which can also help to give some information as well. So it's they're not all perfect, but they all lend themselves to an increased awareness of ovulation, which ultimately is actually the most important thing to know, apart from how to have sex, to get pregnant.
Oh, when this woman speaks, I am going through animation movie production in my head. I have not heard it described like this. Keep going.
All right. I've got one final point to make, which is less entertaining and is a bit more serious, and that is around ovarian cancer, about knowing your risk and how to detect it. So ovarian cancer is the third most common gynecological women's cancer in New Zealand, and it's most deadly, with about 85% of people who are diagnosed with ovarian cancer having that diagnosed at an advanced and incurable place. The reason for that is that every month when we ovulate, we produce a cyst on our ovary. That is a normal physiological process. So our body has, and that cyst can be up to about 5 centimetres at times, and we're just walking around in the world with a 5 centimetre cyst on our ovary without any awareness of that. So if you develop a cyst, which is a cancerous cyst, it's got the opportunity to grow just like an ovulation cyst without our awareness at the same time. So symptoms of ovarian cancer include things like increasing abdominal distension or bloating, feeling full earlier than you usually would after a meal, or decreased appetite, sometimes some pelvic pain, or some pain or pressure with sex, or change in bowel and bladder function. All of those symptoms, you can imagine, are quite subtle and insidious, and so they could be present for a very long time before someone would actually recognise that there's anything at all going on. And what I would usually say is to be aware of those symptoms, and if you do notice something new, if it's been 2 weeks, go and check it out. That's your time limit, because obviously you can have a gut, you might have a bad meal and your bowels might be off for a bit, but if it persists beyond 2 weeks, you need to get it looked at. Ovarian cancer, as Eileen's talked about with cervical cancer and HPV screening, which is super exciting, ovarian cancer is mostly about your genetics. So there are 3 main genetic conditions which are passed through families, which have been very clearly associated with the development of ovarian cancer. So the first 2 are BRCA1 and BRCA2, which are linked also to breast cancer, and another condition called HNPCC, sorry Megan, or Lynch syndrome, which is linked to bowel cancer. So everything that we look at in terms of trying to prevent ovarian cancer doesn't really seem to help, but the main thing is if you've got a family history of ovarian, breast or bowel cancer, to talk to your GP about where that sits in your family and other people affected and the age of those conditions, to see whether genetic testing is appropriate for you, and then if that is confirmed, there is often options for management. So know how to detect ovarian cancer with all of those very vague abdominal symptoms, but ultimately, if you have genetics, they need to be looked at.
Amazing. Dr. Amelia Ryan, my goodness. And you can catch us again this time next week, imagine, wouldn't that be neat? Now, there is a little card on your seat for Slido questions. So we wanted to make sure that we focus on our keynote speakers, our fantastic experts during our panel session. We are going to have a moment after our fabulous Lillian, who will talk to us about our nutrition, and I'm just going to stop there because I know you've got more to add there. But a reminder, we'll give you a couple of moments to either ask a question via our Slido, or of course we can also have an open floor. So, insights on food, the things that comes in, the stuff that goes out, but to actually put that professional expert advice, the big three. Can we please give it up for our nutrition expert, Lily?
Thank you, and kia ora koutou. Thank you so much to all the TEND people for this, involving me in this kaupapa. It's an area I'm super passionate about. I'm not going to talk about vaginas. I think we've had a lot of vaginas. My first point I wanted to make is when it comes to diet, I think we all just need to be stripping back the bright lights and thinking simple, not sexy. It's really tempting, especially if you go to Chemist Warehouse and see that big old lineup of supplements, powders, promising the world. Often marketed at women to balance hormones, to give us energy, to support our immune function. And it's not to say these products don't have a place in our lives. It's really important that you work with your health professional to look at the suitability. But what I want to say is when it comes to diet, the strongest evidence we have is around whole foods, our dietary pattern, how that fits together, the combination of those foods, and that can actually really be important for supporting our blood sugar levels, our mood, our metabolic health, and our long-term health. And we know that when we eat food in its whole form, contains a real package of nutrients that is protective of our health. So I really want to say, it's really tempting. We're sexy enough. We're sexy enough. When it comes to diet, just keep it simple. We have huge inequities in this country when it comes to diet. We don't need to be raising the bar higher and higher and higher. Just keep it simple. Eat those key food groups and look at the overall pattern of how you consistently eat those foods. And then talk to your health professional about whether you need a sprinkle on the top. But our diet needs to be whole foods as the main event. And when we think about supplements, pills, powders, they just need to be that little sprinkle of pepper, that little boost that you may need on an individual level. That's my first point.
I like it. Think simple, not sexy. It's kind of like when I have those outfits and I'm putting all the stuff on and it's like, no, take a couple of things off. Keep it simple but sexy. Like it.
The second point I wanted to make is probably from my time at the Heart Foundation and being really passionate about heart health. I think we talk about menopause and we often talk about the symptoms, but we really need to be focusing on how we can eat to protect our heart health, because as we transition through menopause, our estrogen reduces significantly and that shoots up our risk of heart disease. So heart disease is actually the leading cause of death in New Zealand women. A lot of people get surprised by that because of other cancers, etc. The reason that we become so vulnerable post-menopause is that reduction in estrogen actually affects our cholesterol, our blood pressure, and also how we distribute and store fat. So what I would say is, what can we be doing every single day, whether we're in perimenopause or menopause, but to eat to protect our heart health? One of the things I would always suggest as a dietitian is thinking about the foods that we can add onto our plate, so those heart-healthy sources of fats. Are you having foods like chia seeds, flax seeds, walnuts, oily fish, olive oil, avocado every day, every week? Because that will really help with your management of your blood cholesterol and put you in a really good position as you enter into menopause.
Awesome. Oh, all the lessons and all the tips. I love it. I'm signing up as we speak. I like this line. Eat to nourish.
It's actually nourish, not punish.
Love it.
So, I'm a mother to an 8-year-old, I'm an auntie to a few 8, 9, 10-year-olds. Many of us will be aunties, mums, grandparents, godparents. I am really passionate about the way that I talk to my daughter about food, about bodies, and I'm really concerned about her growing up in this world with hashtags like skinny top. I think we all have a role as women to be empowering the girls who are women, the next generation of women, how to nourish their bodies and not punish their bodies. You know, we've all grown up in the world of dieting, and we know that restricting food, skipping meals, chronic dieting has a huge impact on menstrual health, hormonal health, metabolic health, and also long-term health. So I guess one thing I think we all need to take control of, and I challenge you, is just to have those hard conversations with girls, with teenagers, about the importance of nourishing their body and not punishing their bodies.
Totally love that. I think that all of us have been guilty of that. Punishing, not nourishing. What was the hashtag?
Well, it apparently got removed, but it still is around, but the hashtag skinny talk. So it's essentially influencers, you know, shining a light on, you know, really, really thin bodies that are unhealthy, that are unrealistic. And if this is what our younger generation is seeing and thinking is acceptable, it's really harmful.
Great. Again, I think we're going to flip the script. We're going to have real talk. Keep it real. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, how lucky are we? Our expert panel, not just do you have that in-depth information, but you guys are awesome, you're fun, you keep it real and so easy to understand and digest. Dr. Eileen Sables, that's your cue. Dr. Amelia Ryan. Dr. Ogilvie. Lily Henderson, aren't they fabulous? I'm going to ask you to stay on the stage for now, because it's not every day that we have our experts on hand and at our beckoning call. And also, please don't forget, we do have our Cecilia here. We've got Dame Val. We also have Denise. In case there are some questions from the floor, I'm just going to check how our Slido is going. Please don't be shy. If you've got a question, bring it our way. I've got the right glasses on today, I do. Why are my periods getting heavier now that I'm in perimenopause? I am on HRT. Is this possibly why?
I don't mind. You go for it.
Okay, we can both do it. Yeah. Because Megan and I, as gynecologists and endocrinologists, we work very much hand in hand in this space. So we sort of bring different angles, but both work with women with heavy periods. The way I describe it, I love an analogy. And if you think about a menstrual cycle, the first half is driven by estrogen and the second half is driven by progesterone. Estrogen in your uterus is the fertilizer. It makes the uterine lining grow, and then the progesterone in the second half is the lawnmower that comes along and trims it at the end of the month, and the grass clippings come out, right? I know, but it works. You get it, all right.
I see it right now.
It's in your mind.
Going in my head.
Yeah. So when as you age and you become closer to perimenopause, the ovarian reserve in your, the egg reserve in your ovary reduces down for a number of different reasons. The stability of that regularity of your period changes, and you tend to get longer cycles which have more estrogen and less progesterone, so more fertilizer, not enough lawn mowing. So we get a real shaggy sort of lawn, and sometimes some weeds can grow. Yeah, exactly. So then, when it eventually happens, so you have an ovulation that might be spaced out for longer than expected because there's not as many eggs to recruit. When that ovulation eventually occurs, the lawnmower gets released onto the lawn, but the lawn's completely overgrown. So when it eventually comes out, it's very heavy, chaotic, dysregulated, lasts for a long time, flooding, clotting, etc.
Oh gosh, honestly, I was thinking inside mowing, outside mowing. I'm not going to forget that analogy. Thank you.
So that's a pretty hard act to follow. I don't have lots to add to that. My only comment would be that women are moving from their reproductive cycles to those early perimenopausal cycles. So not only do you have more estrogen, but you have higher estrogen, and those feedbacks are changing. So the cycles are coming closer together and the hormones are going higher. It's a really common time for women to come and talk to us about breast pain, worsening cyclical PMDD symptoms, and heavy periods, and headaches actually. And we often can manage those options.
Great. Gosh, I am learning a lot. I also want to remind our audience, please do pass on to friends and whānau members that we are going to send a link. So for those who aren't here tonight, who don't tune into the live stream as it happens right now, the link is also going to be sent tomorrow and available. Check out our website, womenshealthweek.nz, for all of this information, and I'm going to go again because I want to hear some of this all over again too. Are you with me, audience? Yes! Thanking you. Next question. If it is your question, and if you did want some information to be elaborated on, please feel free to put up your hand and we can share and talk about that. If not, absolutely fine too. What do you suggest to ensure I do self-swabs correctly, as I'm worried I'm missing something by not having a doctor do it? Great question. Agree.
Val, would you prefer I did?
Sure.
Yeah, everybody's worried about, oh, maybe I won't be able to swab the cervix. Well, guess what? That's not what we're interested in. We're looking for the HPV virus. And if it's there, it's everywhere. It's all over the vaginal wall. So all you have to do is put that little swab in up to the little red mark, which is about that. And then you twizzle it around for 20 seconds, so just sing happy birthday to you in your head, because that's what we used to do when we were washing our hands during COVID, 20 seconds.
Right.
Happy birthday to you from the toilet in our waiting room. That's all the time.
I
And we'll have virus on there. So you don't have to worry about doing it wrong. You basically can't do it wrong if you can get the thing into the vagina.
And don't forget, you did, that's going to be a few more dollars in the jar. It's the happy jar. I learned another new word tonight, twizzles. You just pop it in, it's only yay big, it's really thin, it's really short, and then twizzle and happy birthday to me. So there's going to be lots of birthday songs this week, I hope. Awesome. What is your top tip for advocating for yourself as a woman in healthcare? What's your top tip?
As a woman in healthcare.
As a woman in healthcare, what is your top tip for advocating for yourself?
I think you've got to be really loud. I think you just have to talk. Or shout if you have to, which I've done many, many times.
Awesome.
It helps if you're short as well. Because when I was at med school and you had to crowd around the bed and there were stacks of medical students, I always had to be in the front, in the middle, otherwise I couldn't see or hear anything. So I always had to know what was going to be happening. So everybody thought I was a swot, but I wasn't really. I just needed to be in the front.
And I can see it
Just
right
be
now.
loud.
She would have been, excuse me, I'm just waiting. I'm twizzling my way to the front.
And using my sharp elbows to get to the front.
And lucky us for that.
Yes.
Ladies?
I would say do your research beforehand. There is so much in the way of online resources available these days that if you go to the right place, and often that is the difficulty, is finding the resource that's the right resource to be looking at. And I certainly see Instagram as a place of caution because, and other kind of social media, because you don't really know who you're consuming information from. But a lot of health professionals these days have online presences. I've got an Instagram page which is just full of stuff that's just information. And I think it's very accessible, and the more you go armed with your basic knowledge, no one's expecting you to make a self-diagnosis. In fact, try to avoid doing that. But if you've listened to a podcast, you've gone online, and you've seen something that worries you, and you communicate that to a health professional, that's very valid, and it really should not be overlooked.
Just on that point, social media posting activities pages, are they verified? Are they certified? And is there a way that we know? For instance, if I had 5 to go to, I know I can go to 10 and boom, it's going to be professional, certified, qualified advice. On social media platform these days, it may be something to consider. Are they verified and certified?
No, not at all.
Problem.
Yeah.
Just like we had to post these days as influencers, you know, you say if it's an ad, you say if it's a gift, maybe that's something we can put out there as well. How can we make sure that they're certified and verified?
I think if you can't see what someone's qualifications are, then they're not worth looking at.
Problem.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm going to move from that, Amelia, and I'm going to suggest that looking at the International Society websites will give you a lot of verified information. The Australasian Menopause Society has put together a fabulous website with lots and lots of information on it. Think about what you want out of that consultation, think about what your aims are, and write those down, and write down the questions you have. Because you can get in there, you're a little bit anxious, you feel like you don't have lots and lots of time, and it's very easy to feel like you don't get through all the things that you want to say or all the questions you want to ask in a consultation. And I think preparing for that consultation helps hugely.
Yeah, you stole both of my my points. I think researching, planning, but I also think don't be afraid to push if you really do believe that you need a particular test, or you do think that you need something to be investigated, because I think, you know, health professionals are busy, our system doesn't support really long appointments. I think it is always good to, no one else is going to advocate for yourself other than you, so if you really do have a particular feeling and that something needs further investigation, then yeah, don't be afraid to stand up.
Stand up, ask, find the right answers, and share it again, because again, it's with this type of advocacy for yourself and then others that we maybe get to those answers a little bit faster when systems don't always allow. Thank you, ladies. We're talking about protein. The hype about eating more protein as a perimenopausal woman, is it true?
Short answer is yes, protein is really, really important, an important macronutrient through all life stages, but particularly as you get into menopause, but it's not the only macronutrient. And I think we're in a world today where there are lots of products and there's a huge emphasis and focus on protein. And it's been marketed because it's quite easy to say something is a source of protein or high in protein. Protein is important, but we need to be thinking about our overall plate, and we need to be thinking about where that protein's coming from. So ideally whole foods, and if for some people they may benefit from, say, a protein powder or another form of supplementation, but we also need to be thinking about other key nutrients. So getting enough dietary fibre, making sure we're getting enough of our micronutrients like calcium, like iron. So I think it's valid that protein is important, it helps with our satiety and regulates our appetite, but it's not the be all and end all. We need to be really thinking about the overall balance of our diet.
Fantastic, thank you. There's a few more questions here if we're still okay for that. Myself and many women I know have been on the pill for over 10 years. Would you recommend coming off the pill to learn more about my cycles and hormones?
I think there's a lot of positives in a contraceptive pill. The long-term safety data out of the United Kingdom, looking at really big GP studies, is very reassuring around contraceptive pill use. Less deaths in women who've ever used a pill than never used a pill. It's protective from ovarian cancer, it's protective from endometrial cancer. It's great contraception, so there's a lot of positives. But if you're sitting in the space where you're thinking, I'm an athlete, I don't know if I'm menstruating or not, I really want to know what's happening to my cycle. For whatever reason, I might be thinking about pregnancy in the next year or two, then coming off the pill and having a look at where your cycle is certainly not an unreasonable thing to do, because you can't accept a 4-weekly withdrawal bleed on the contraceptive pill as a regular period. You don't really know what's happening to your cycle underneath that. Do you want to add anything?
One thing I would add is that I used to suggest to people when they wanted to try to conceive and they were on the pill to come off about 3 months beforehand so that their cycle could come back and they could get an idea of that. And I've actually lengthened that out to 12 months because of what I mentioned in my top tip, which is that increasing awareness of ovulation. And it's so important for getting pregnant that having a good run-in, as long as you're willing to take the risk of pregnancy and use barrier contraception or something in the meantime, that longer tail to allow your cycle to come back in and really understand what's going on can be very helpful and take away that time pressure that people feel when they're trying to get pregnant, particularly if you're trying to get pregnant in your 30s, mid-30s or late 30s, where time probably is a little bit more of a pressure. But otherwise, no, stay on it.
Good insight there, ladies. We've got a couple more. We're talking about breast density, and another one has popped up, so just one moment, please, while we scroll. It was breast density and breast cancer. Is it better to get an ultrasound than it is mammograms if your breasts have a deeper density?
Short answer, no, but you might end up having an ultrasound as well as a mammogram. So mammography, we haven't had anything better than mammography emerge for detecting breast cancer. But the more dense the breast tissue is, the more difficult it is to interpret. So that means sometimes it's more difficult to actually spot the cancers, which is why we don't do mammography in very young women, if we can avoid it. We will just do it if we think there's a problem. So still have your mammogram, even if you've been told that you've got very dense breast tissue, but you may find that your doctor also says, I tell you what, let's have an ultrasound as well, because it just gives you a little bit of additional information about whether there is something lurking in there. But it's certainly not a substitute for mammography, and neither is thermography as well.
So if you're not sure, go for the first one. Our mammogram is the primary. If you need some extra info, your professional will advise you. And then what was the thermography?
Thermography is looking at the temperature of breast tissue, and it became a very in thing to be doing about 10 years ago, because you don't have to put your boob in between those plates and have them squashed. So everybody thought, oh, this is going to be the way to go, but honestly it does not cut the mustard as far as looking for breast cancers.
Great, thank you, Dr. Eileen. Is ovulation pain normal? When do I know that it's not?
Yes and no. So a lot of women will experience some mild cramping around the time, or fullness around the time of ovulation, because it is by definition a traumatic process. Another analogy, it's like a water balloon. It's like a water balloon that is literally bursting and releasing that water, it releases the egg with it. So sometimes there can be a little bit of bleeding from the edge of the ovary as that water balloon ruptures. That can cause some irritation inside the pelvis. But in saying that, ovulation pain that is very significant, requiring a lot of pain relief or impacting on one's ability to live their life, can be a symptom of other conditions, including endometriosis. So yes, but if it is severe and it's really stopping you from doing things, it should be looked into.
Great. What are some ways for the men to support the wāhine in our lives, to encourage them to look after their healthcare needs more? So the men, how can we encourage them to speak more and know more about the healthcare in our lady lives?
I was just thinking of my own husband. and just him listening and paying attention and understanding if I have got abnormal test results or if I'm going to see the doctor and what that's about. I'd probably say he could do a little bit of improvement there. But yeah, just being interested and wanting to find out more about any of the health appointments you are having to kind of understand more.
Yeah, great. I have to say, some guys are amazing. I remember a fella coming in to see me with a knife, a vegetable knife, through his forearm. And so I was like, oh, okay, right, trying to help him get this thing out and stitch the hole up. And he said, you have to help her, Doc. Oh, and I said, goodness. Who am I helping? You know, thinking, you're the one with the vegetable knife stuck through your forearm. And she clearly had PMDD, this lady, and he had just said, what time is dinner going to be ready? Straight through his
PMDD and a little cray-cray, but it can make you feel a little bit.
But there he was with a vegetable knife sticking out of his forearm, and he was worried about his wife. You know, you have to help her.
He's worried about his wife because other things might have been happening if he wasn't listening. There's quite a few more questions here, and I wonder if we're going to post them online, and then our experts can maybe add to the conversation online. But one more. They're all important.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. How can we encourage minority communities to feel safe, asking for health care and seek the right medical attention?
I think you have people like that lady right in the front there, singing for her community. We need more.
Yeah, fantastic. I think we're going to call it for now, otherwise the questions keep popping up. But this is what I think is wonderful. The question around how can the men in our lives support us better, I think this is such a great start first and foremost. Get to know ourselves and our healthcare better, and then in turn, let's put expectation on those around us. We have just been so fortunate tonight to have our panel experts. Can we give it up, please? Dr. Eileen Sables, Dr. Amelia, Dr. Ogilvie, Lily Henderson. Please also, I want to ask them to be upstanding. Denise Cosgrove, Cecilia Robinson, and of course, our very own Dame Valerie Adams. It has been an absolute pleasure, our first of its kind, many, many more to come. Please encourage your workplaces, your friends, your girlfriends. Let's do this more. And thank you so much to the team at TEND for putting us wāhine so at the forefront of this conversation. It's been my pleasure to be your MC for today. I'm so glad there's so many health things I don't know, because through my stupidity, hopefully you get to learn more. Kia ora, thank you, good evening. Have a drink, have a nibble. Love you all. To be continued. We're going to do a quick prize draw, so if you've got your registration, right. So anybody that's registered an event, I know there's a few of you in the room representing your organisations or your teams, your friends. We're going to go in, I'm going to ask you to help me with this one. And the winner is, drum roll with your leggies or your hands. The winner is Celiac New Zealand. If there is a representative for Celiac New Zealand in the room, awesome, congratulations. If not, we will find you. Keep checking out the website. There is more stuff happening in the week. I'm going to grab a wine because I think we all